One of the aspects that I find so rewarding about your film is its poetry, not just from a narrative and emotional standpoint, but from a visual one. An argument could be made that the film is divided up into chapters by this visual pattern of the camera slowly walking into a setting or starting a scene off out of focus and then slowly bringing someone into focus. Each time this happens, whether it's coming into a group's brainstorming session or looking through a peephole, it says a lot about how someone may be feeling. So I'm curious about developing those moments and how you each found ways to pull the poetry out of every corner of the frame.
Whoa.
That's a beautiful
Uh,
question.
Good question. Yeah. Hopefully
Giving
our
Greg a
answer
second to think.
to the poetry of your question. I mean, so much credit to the visual poetry has to go to our team of craftspeople who made those frames so alive, led by Pat Scola, our cinematographer, but really across all the departments, and costume and production design as well. I mean, there was a lot of care really at almost a microscopic level of listening to all of, first and foremost, all of our men who really lived this, that were alumni of the program, and they were our guides to showing us not just what things looked like or sounded like, or but more importantly what they felt like, and by knowing what it felt like as artists, we could try to find ways to represent that and channel it. I mean, one big thing that was very clear from the beginning was not to fall into any traps of the stereotypes that have preceded us in the canon of films about prison, and instead shift our frame and focus the lens on this amazing thing that was happening within the program. Not denying that, you know, the hardships, and that's putting it lightly, of incarceration,
Yeah.
but where is our emphasis, and what are we paying attention to? And if you pay it, if just by paying attention to something like a flower in bloom, if you pull close to something and draw close to someone's face and look someone in the eyes, like, the beauty in poetry is plainly evident, you know.
Mm.
We are able to then commit that to film. I have to say all that not to deny the artistry at play from literally everyone involved. It's a dance, like where we decided to focus, and then creating a space where everyone could bring their full selves as artists and do their best work.
Yeah, I love that you call it a dance because I feel like Pat was literally
Yeah.
dancing with the camera
Oh yeah.
a lot of times, and was,
Yeah.
and just where he decides to put the camera. And I think that you guys both talked about, just getting out of the way and allowing things to happen, allowing things to emerge on the day. And I think that approach that Pat had to, placing the camera right in the middle of the circle, allowing to capture these moments of spontaneity in the most intimate way possible. I think that also kind of contributed to the poetic nature of the visuals.
Taking a cue from RTA and the work that they do in rehabilitation through the arts in these prisons, it is literally poetry, the definition of poetry, of finding this beautiful moments within something very dark, and finding those beautiful moments within real life. And that's something that we took into just trying to I don't know, just put that in the script as much as possible, and put that into every scene of, like, what is the poetry of this moment, even if they're just talking about like what the next play is going to be.
There's many moments in this that gave me a whole new perspective or allowed me to get in touch with something again that I haven't been in some time. Like I can be guilty of handing out figurative medicine, but not good at taking it myself sometimes. In the scene with Mike talking about giving up something that you wish you hadn't, caused me to look at the things that, the times that I
Wow.
closed the door on something and I wonder if I really should have. So if you each could, I know it's probably difficult, if you could pick a moment in this film that most significantly impacted you and gave you a new perspective or something new to carry, what would you say that it is?
Holy shit, Preston. Damn.
Yeah.
Heavy
Bringing the
hitting.
big guns today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cancel therapy this afternoon.
I know.
The effect of your film. It causes it's
That's
very
beautiful.
introspective.
Well, I mean, for me, it's a scene, it's when Divine I comes to bring Divine G back into the program and they're just sitting against a wall.
Mhm.
And I recognized something that wasn't really apparent to me as we were developing the script, but I recognized something in myself in both of those characters in that scene. In Divine I, of just feeling entrapped by labels, that are oftentimes put upon us, and yet inside of all of us, this feeling that we contain multitudes, and that sometimes it's important in a path of finding your way towards community or understanding or acceptance. Like, we sometimes need labels to at least find the vocabulary to name certain things that are part of our self, but at a certain point it can limit us of the fullness of our humanity, and I've certainly felt trapped at times by them, and just seeing someone vocalize that was really important for me to hear, even though I played a role in writing those words, like just hearing it through the character.
Right.
And then in Divine G, just being someone who is so solely focused on what he can do for someone else, and starting to realize that is a coping mechanism because he doesn't know how to ask for the things he needs in himself. And that also hits very close to home for me as well.
Yeah.
Well, seeing
Get it?
something that like we saw early on with the guys in the program, and that we like, it was just even more manifest on set, is just this radical openness and a lack of artifice in any moment, and a total honesty that a lot of them have. They've just stripped off their masks, for lack of a better way to say it. And I think that's something that like has stood out to me in the 8 years since we've been doing this, and especially since making the film. It's a constant effort day by day, but like it's a really inspiring thing, and something that I try and remember about that, and try and do better at just being honest, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, speaking of honesty, I feel like through all y'all's work collectively, there's such a quest for truth, and that's very, very apparent in this work. And I feel like it's very well encapsulated in an early on scene with Divine G and Mike approaching Divine I and asking him, like, why do you really want to be a part of this? And just be honest. And I feel like each of you have not given into the traditional route, so to speak. Like, I feel like y'all just find a way to chase something that feels wholly unique and honest. And so I'm just curious if you can kind of pinpoint where in your life and career as storytellers that may have happened, that was important to you to kind of go away from tradition and chase something that does feel like a genuine or sincere quest for truth.
Yeah.
Monique? Questions.
Yeah. You lead it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I became interested in filmmaking through documentary, and I think documentary is a way of, you build trust, you build a relationship. But one of the things I learned early on is that even in documentary, you can't capture, you have to edit it, right? And it's like a lot of the construction of the film happens in the edit. And I think that bringing that knowledge and the things that I like, the power that I love of documentary in terms of like capturing someone's life as it is and telling their story, but then bringing that into the fiction world, and like what aspects of documentary can you bring into the fiction world to try to, just to create that kind of like intangible, like honesty and truth that I think you find in documentary. That was always compelling to me, I think. And so I think then that's compelling too, in terms of like how we all worked together as a community and really felt like, okay, let's foreground the authenticity, let's foreground the truth, let's foreground the way the stories as these men have lived it, and try to create this this alchemy with this, you know, these amazing actors and Colman Domingo and Paul Raci and Sean San Jose, but then, you know, can we create like a beautiful alchemy with the men who actually live this story? And I think in doing so, we, you know, we worked, you know, there were certain aspects that were spontaneous, certain aspects of the script that maybe you can speak to, and Clint, that they built into the actual construction of the script of like, you know, it might just be like one line on the page, but it's actually an entire scene. You know, they talk about going to their perfect place, you know, but like that doesn't capture exactly what you see on screen, which is like all of these beautiful, really spontaneous reflections. And I think that I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I think that was kind of how I started and what was, you know, really compelling to me about this.
One thing, not to speak for you, Clint, but I feel like we learned this really at the same time when we were starting to develop our first film, Trans-Pecos, is if you know, go into a place and you sit down and you're in front of the people there and you listen first, you know, and that's the posture. If you listen, people will tell you who they are, you know, and from that, then you can build a story. You know, it begins there with us, and that's led us on some wild adventures into very different worlds and stories. But that's the posture that we enter these spaces with.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say something similar. No surprise, maybe, but you know, I think like there's something. I think almost everybody, the majority of people who want to be some sort of artist or something, start from that place of like wanting to do something honest that you're talking about there, Preston. And I think the real value, and that like working with Greg early on, now we've been working together 12 or 13 years and or longer. That was something that drew us together in the beginning, is that shared kind of like center, you know? And then, but it's easy within this industry or any other to get blown off of that because opportunities come up, or there's a more expedient way. And I think there's a lot of value of like making things with your friends and making things with the people who you care about and care about you, because you've always got that person to kind of keep you honest, for lack of a better way to say it. And even if that person doesn't say anything, you think, well, what are they going to think about if I do this or if I don't do that? And that's just expanded then when we've now that we've been working with Monique, and somebody who shares those values as well. And yeah, just like having a little community to kind of like not only keep you honest, but help you find a path to find that honesty. And I think that's the more valuable part of it.